So, you know, from a world building point of view, having them in this mass-produced, you know, cheap, crude armor that gets, you know, like 3/4 or half covered, you know, I really like that from a design point of view. But, you know, let's keep moving. Yeah, no backplate because, you know, time and resources were not permitting. So we just need to get them out the, get them as armed as they could with the amount of time they had to get them armed in, which makes me really question why they have mail shirts underneath. Because, you know, making riveted mail, hell, even making butted mail is massively time intensive, let alone making riveted mail. Honestly, with, you know, it's good to see that they're wearing mail shirts underneath their armor, and, you know, depending on what scene, I can't really tell if maybe some of them are wearing either some kind of akaton or padded jacket underneath of them, or maybe some of them are wearing like buff coats, like a leather buff coat underneath their mail, underneath their plate. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes, but, you know, it's a nice detail. But if I was in charge of logistics, maybe not bothered with the mail shirt and instead put people making that onto making tassets and like a proper gorget. But, you know, it is nice to see them wearing like some mail underneath, and they're not completely covered in mail, which, you know, these are not expensive elite soldiers that you are going to put a lot of resources into keeping alive. If they die, you just pull another one out of the mud. But it's nice to see that they're wearing mail underneath. But again, if it was me, I would have spent that extra time and energy getting them all feathers that attach to the chin. You know, there are two main types of feather. Well, three if you include the ones that attach to the sallet, or built into a sallet. But you know, you do get feathers that are mounted to the breastplate, which is like what they've got on here. You also get ones that are strapped to the chin, and honestly, I would have liked to have added that to it. The vambraces or gauntlets, kind of vambrace gauntlet hybrid thing that's going on. You do see on some like munitions grade armor that for the vambrace they might only have just a vambrace on the outside, so you're protecting your outside line, you're not protecting the inside of the arm. Which, if you think that's making you vulnerable, you should go see Jack Chains. So, you know what, because they're pressed for time, just having something on the outside of the arm, you know what, kind of makes sense. I normally hate any kind of armor that protects the upper arm and the lower arm but leaves the elbow exposed. It's a pet peeve of mine. This kind of gets a pass because that vambrace doesn't end here. It extends out. It doesn't end here. Instead, it extends out and covers the elbow, like some of the stuff you get in the East, like your Middle Eastern vambraces that cover the elbow, or, you know, Hussar vambraces. So, you know, part of me would really love to have seen them with elbow cups, and, you know, I think some of the Uruk have shorter vambraces, in which case you probably really do want something over that elbow because it's a vulnerable joint. But because these extend out to protect the elbow, I'm willing to give them a pass. And they've got this weird thing going on where the vambrace is built into the gauntlet. You do actually get a bit of that going on in history. Alright, so I had seen some German Gothic gauntlets that are built into a vambrace that was intended to have a floating elbow attached. But you do see further east demi-gauntlet vambrace hybrids where they're put together. Which, yeah, quick note. Do any of the orcs actually have fingers on their gauntlets, or are they all just demi-gauntlets? That's a nice detail. Again, if you're pressed for time and resources, not going through the extra effort to put plates on the individual fingers, it's a big time saver, because you've just made one gauntlet and you've got another 10,000 to make within 2 weeks. So and you don't know if you have enough charcoal. Another thing that stands out is how wide some of these vambraces look. They almost look like a little miniature shield coming out, and it could just be the spikes that they've got on some of them that are like claws that really just... Alright, I'm just gonna say it. Lantern shields. Yeah, the idea of having like a bit of a gauntlet attached to was essentially a shield strapped to your arm, which again is kind of like what's going on with some of these Uruk vambraces. Some of them are... There's a couple of them that look really oversized, almost like they're little miniature shields. For some reason, that just makes an association in my brain with lantern shields. Essentially, it's like a steel shield strapped to your forearm, but then your hand is still free because it's got a gauntlet built into the actual strap shield. So, not sure why. It could just be the fact that it's got those claws sticking out of it, but for some reason it makes my brain just go, lantern shield. So, for something that I would class as pure fantasy, might actually work. Yeah, that would probably work if I built it. And some of them, they have like these scalloped sloping bits, so essentially as the arm bends it flares up a little bit, so anything coming in towards the gap of your arm can be deflected away. But it's cut out for it, and I might have to leave the spikes off of it for the fun police problem. Building something like that might actually be a fun project. And to be honest, I would like to build a pure, Lord of the Rings inspired suit of fantasy armor based on the orcs. I'm already going to be doing one based on Theoden's armor. But yeah, I just think it would be fun to just throw off the restrictions of historical accuracy and just have some fun building some plate. So yeah, I'm gonna, you know what, I think I'm gonna enjoy building those gauntlets or vambraces or whatever, but that's for a later date. Now, okay, sometimes you see them, there's like a bit of groin protection. Looks like instead of having proper tassets, they have like this one codpiece tasset thing going on. Yeah, it looks like it's sloped and would probably deflect shots, possibly into your thighs, possibly into your femoral artery. Maybe it's just for show. Not a fan. That brings us down to the greaves. They're pretty weird. They come up over the knees, kind of like a Greek or Roman. They come up over the knees like a Greco-Roman sort of front greave. But the way they flare out at the bottom, depending on which source material you look at, sometimes they look like they're built into the sabatons, like some of the 16th century stuff. Sometimes it just looks like they just flare out. And they're really crude. just a few bent pieces of metal over the feet as Sabatons are really crude, and going back to was it Alex, the history guy's video, I did not know that those really crude like demi Sabaton thingies had a name. So thanks, man. I've seen like some depictions of them in art as like this. There are some really crude Sabatons depicted in art that are they're pretty much just like a few plates of steel stuck on some leather. You just wear it over the top of your shoe, just to hopefully stop you getting stabbed in the foot. But the fact that they're worn over sandals, I think, is interesting. Side note, there are actual ancient Greek Sabatons. Would ancient Greek Sabatons be worn just over the sandals? Or would you wrap your foot first? Overall, I do really like this armor. It's got some issues that I would like to clean up. Not clean up, but I would love to make my own version of it that's a bit more like stuff from history. Try and make a more realistic version, or like functional version. I think it'd be a fun project. I'm really looking forward to doing it when I have the time. But for crude, mass-produced 3/4 armor that is like munitions grade, it's just enough to work, and it's nothing fancy. I do quite really like this overall design. Things I would do to improve it, going from top to bottom, I would probably add the other kind of bevel, the kind that like straps to your chin, kind of like a Japanese mempo. Give it like a mempo kind of thing, or like the kind of bevel that straps to your chin that has the little bit that comes down and protects the throat. As long as you can get it to not interfere with that little demi bevel. Figure something out with that. Maybe remove the demi bevel and just have a stop rib or something, and wear a the other kind of bevel that straps onto your chin underneath, just so you get a bit more throat protection. If you want to see the best version of an Uruk helmet that I've ever seen, Art of Armour. Alexei, he's a professional armorer out of Ukraine who makes Uruk armor. He's made a fully functional closed sallet version of an Uruk helmet that he's designed it so that it would be usable in Bruhurt. Just wow. And he's designed it so that the blades on the side and the crest come off. So yeah, it's it's an Uruk helmet designed for Bruhurt, and it is absolutely amazing. Top tier. Moving down to maybe add some Besigues to protect Cap in there. I mean, depending on which depiction of them you see, the gap is either more or less. But you know what? To give them, it's like just a cutout piece of steel that's then laced to their mail shirt that they're wearing underneath. For the amount of extra effort of just get your goblins to cut out like a square or a circle, punch 2 holes in it, and give them a leather thong to tie it on. That's for that tiny little bit of extra effort, you could have a lot more effective protection on that gap. Speaking of gaps, the middle of that breastplate. Actually, wait, no. Really would love to see them, just have those little lanes overlap in one direction. Honestly, I don't care which. I mean, if you're building it for dudes who are have a shield in one arm and they swing with a sword and they fight. I don't know how much martial arts training do you think the orcs have? Yeah, if they're swinging with their body turned that way more often than not, have them overlap that way maybe, or if they're standing that way with a pike, maybe have them overlap that way. Honestly, make them overlap one way or the other. Just don't have them side by side like that with the little gap straight up the middle. It really jars me. And I would honestly just turn the edges. Just it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just roll it over. Just give it a little bit of edge around the arm bits. Depending on how you want it, you can maybe modify the bottom of that breastplate to attach tassets. Maybe you could just keep the lame thing going on and just have the lames continue down to the knee, kind of hybridizing it with like a 16th century kind of armor where the articulated tassets evolved and basically became the knee protection. That'd be probably the easiest way to cover up the thighs. Honestly, if those were the tiny little, if those would be the first things I would probably go for, try and make it a bit more practical before anything else. Alright, if you have any other armors you would like me to review, please let me know. And yeah, check out Alex the History Guy and Art of Armour. I'll leave links to their relevant videos in the description. And if you want to see me build an actual more realistic version of the Uruk armor, hang around. I'll get to it eventually. Alright everyone, see you.